Hello, how you guys doing? Welcome to the Messy Sweet Spot. I came across another video that you guys must see. Now, when I saw the title, I was kind of taken back because, again, I don't feel like people have been on trial yet. They are saying that Diddy's son is pretty much crashed out after a testimony. Now, I don't know if this is in the court or out the court, or is this behind the scenes that Diddy son is planning to come up and speak up against them. But in this video, I guess it's going to tell more in detail. So I came across the video. The title was Bunkers, and I was like, you guys will probably want to watch this video too. So let's react to this. It says Diddy loses it after son testimony is exposed. Okay, so I'm sure, did he lose it in the court? We would have heard about that by now. Maybe he lost it when he got into the jail cell after the court. I'm not sure. I mean, it's been on the weekend and it's been quiet, but I'm sure things are still moving. Diddy is feeling some type of way. So maybe this is behind the scenes. I don't know, but I'm not sure if this is real either. But I want you guys to take a look and tell us what you feel about this, okay? Make sure you guys like, share, subscribe here at the Messy Sweet Spot.
Well, Bill and Sade, accepting a plea agreement would mean that Sean Combs would have to admit to trafficking and force. And today he made it very clear that was not going to happen. Diddy maintained all along these encounters involved consenting adults and plans to take his chances that a jury agrees.
Well, it's not up to me. It's up to Mr. Combs, and I don't see it happening.
Why?
Because he believes he's innocent. He believes he's innocent. And what's more, he believes that he needs to stand up, not just for himself, for his family, and for everybody who's been targeted by the federal government.
Christian Combs, Sean Diddy Combs' eldest son, is reportedly working behind the scenes with federal prosecutors in New York just days before his father's explosive trial kicks off on serious ST&R charges.
How can you support your father? How do you support him moving forward?
Two law enforcement insiders confirmed that court files reviewed on Friday include a sealed memo detailing expected testimony from a family member. And yes, defense lawyers say that mystery witness is none other than 27-year-old rapper King Combs. Prosecutors believe Christian holds direct knowledge about private jets, exclusive guest lists, and hush-hush money transfers connected to Diddy's infamous parties in the Hamptons and Miami, events that now sit at the center of a high-stakes investigation. These gatherings, spanning from 2015 to 2022, align with the alleged ST ring laid out in last year's jaw-dropping indictment. This cooperation could flip the case on its head. Former Assistant U.S. Attorney Mark Diaz said close family testimony is extremely rare and incredibly powerful, especially in conspiracy cases like this. Diddy just rejected a plea deal that would have capped his sentence at 12 years, and his legal team is ready to battle at every turn. That confidential memo, first filed Tuesday, doesn't spell out if Christian has locked in a formal immunity deal. But insiders say things moved fast after Homeland Security agents raided Diddy's LA and Miami mansions in March, grabbing phones, laptops, and detailed financial records.
I literally took one sip of my beverage and the whole side of my face.
Isn't that, to my mind, that's one of the bigger hurdles in selecting a jury this coming week, is that there is, at least anecdotally, when I talk to people, they have that opinion, strongly held opinion, that there's celebrity tapes, that they've kind of conflated Epstein, and you mentioned Ghislaine Maxwell and all of these things into Diddy. There's this idea that somehow this is Epstein redux or something.
Defense teams who've seen the evidence say at least 14 of those devices contain father-son convos that prosecutors now want confirmed through live testimony. If convicted on all counts, Diddy could be facing over 20 years behind bars. Meanwhile, Christian, who hasn't been charged, might be aiming to separate himself from any legal blowback by cutting this quiet deal. Any family member who saw shady deals or was part of weird money moves was on the radar once those devices were seized, said defense consultant Yusuf Roberts, a former DEA agent now advising witnesses in similar ST cases. Even more shocking, messages pulled from an encrypted app allegedly show Christian organizing luxury charter flights flying high-profile guests to private all-white parties in the Hamptons, plus wild late-night yacht bashes in Biscayne Bay. Prosecutors claim those flights, funded by shell companies linked to Bad Boy Entertainment, are key to proving Diddy ran a coordinated operation using his employees to move people across state lines for illegal reasons. Diddy's legal team is firing back hard. They say the private jets just carried celebrities to normal industry parties and deny any shady intent. In a filing on Thursday, lead defense attorney Aaron Sussman slammed the government for weaponizing family ties, saying pressuring a son to turn on his dad hits a whole new low in celebrity trials. Sussman pushed Judge R.N. Subramanian to examine the sealed testimony before opening arguments begin. But the judge said he'd wait until after Christian is questioned during jury selection. As for Christian, his team isn't talking, citing legal restrictions, but someone close to him confirmed he already met with prosecutors twice in early April.
What made you come here to support Puff?
I'm supporting Puff because he's innocent, and I'm wholeheartedly believing his innocence, and I know he's innocent. So,
Well, so you know he's innocent.
1,000%.
Mr. Combs feels A, he's innocent, which is why he's not going to plead guilty. B, he's going to be truthful about this case because he wants to portray that to the people who have loved him his whole life. And I think he also feels an obligation to people in general. Maybe it's Black people, maybe it's white people, maybe it's anybody who's ever felt aggrieved and targeted by the government. He feels an obligation to those people to say, you know what? Maybe I can break the model. Maybe I can show the world that a Black man can win, in federal court. And I think he probably is the only person I know of who might be able to actually accomplish that.
And when the judge did, Diddy, who was sitting at the defense table with his attorneys, did not show any signs of emotion. He took a sip of water before he was led out of the courtroom by the U.S. Marshals. Now, his lawyers have vowed to fight this. They are going to be back in court on Wednesday before the judge who will oversee this trial and try to get Diddy to be released.
Christian Combs reportedly spoke with prosecutors in the presence of his own legal team, and that timing just so happens to match when Diddy's crew started complaining they were being kept totally in the dark. Right then, insiders say, is when the pressure started building. Not just on Diddy, but on the entire celebrity circle that once moved around his empire. Last week, 50 Cent stirred the pot online, claiming he's got court documents naming famous figures who profited from deals tied to Diddy's ventures. And guess what? Prosecutors are already digging into it, subpoenaing records for celebrity appearances, endorsement checks, and how the money was split behind closed doors. Right now, no other family members are officially cooperating, but word is that investigators have reached out to both Justin Combs and Quincy Brown, asking them to sit down voluntarily. Reactions inside the Black entertainment world? Mixed. Some old-school industry vets feel for Christian, stuck between family ties and legal heat. But others say he has a duty to speak up. The culture can't scream for the truth, then shame the first family member who steps up, said veteran music journalist Danielle Harper, who's been covering Bad Boy since back in the day. Let's not forget, Diddy's influence is legendary. From the mid-90s to well past the pandemic, his summer bashes brought out Mary J. Blige, Usher, Beyonce, Jay-Z, even actors, athletes, and big tech names all pulled in by his massive reach. But now prosecutors say those wild parties weren't just for fun. They claim the gatherings were recruitment zones for the ST operation. Diddy's legal team calls that theory total fiction, hyped-up nonsense meant to smear a mogul. Still, legal experts say when a family member turns witness, it can tie everything together. The paper trails, the transactions, and the witness stories. Money shows the how, but relatives show the why, said Grace Harris, a Loyola law professor who studies celebrity crime cases. And jurors? They pay extra attention when someone close to the accused is on the stand. The sealed memo reportedly lists 6 major areas Christian's ready to talk about: private jet passenger lists, payment instructions from companies tied to Diddy, real-time chats during parties, security team duties, post-party cash splits, and even guidance given after media started sniffing around. Diddy's lawyers aren't backing down. They plan to hit every claim, saying Christian didn't call the shots and wasn't looped in on anything shady. But the whole situation's exposing a growing generational rift inside the Combs clan.
Now, as far as jury selection goes, I think the biggest takeaway for me is that both sides expect to have all of this done in the matter of 3 days. Now, given just how high profile this trial is, I was kind of stunned that they seem very confident that they will be able to seat a jury in that amount of time.
What happens is if people go into a trial believing the firepower on the prosecution is so strong, I mean, let's say on a scale of 1 to 100, it's a 95 that it's so strong, but it goes down to an 88. That helps the defense because everybody goes in thinking, wow, they're going to prove this and they're going to prove this and they're going to prove this. And all of a sudden, none of it's there. I think that actually helps the defense.
Earlier this year, Christian made it clear on social media he's all about music and fashion, not finance. Friends say the March raids shook him, especially when video surfaced of armed agents swarming Diddy's LA mansion, a spot Christian often used to lay down tracks. The plea deal Diddy turned down? It would have had him admit to 1 count of R and 1 count tied to ST, give up all weapons seized in March, and fork over a whopping $20 million in forfeiture. His lawyers shut it down, saying the deal was too harsh and painted him as a criminal mastermind. No settlement that paints our client as a conspirator is acceptable, said lead attorney Aaron Sussman outside court. Now all eyes are on Monday's jury selection, expected to be a media circus. With courtroom seats assigned by lottery, legal watchers say the prosecution is ready to hit hard right out the gate, laying out what they call a layered operation that blended business with something much darker. Prosecutors claim Diddy used his spirits business and late-night entertainment empire to cover up serious criminal activity. But his defense team says this case is really about twisting consensual adult relationships into crimes. They argue the government is relying on witnesses chasing big payouts from civil suits, not justice. If the judge gives the green light for Christian Combs to testify, everything could shift fast. Prosecutors hinted they might put him on the stand right away, even before other key witnesses whose identities are still being kept under wraps. Former U.S. Attorney Mark Diaz says leading with a close relative is a bold move. It locks in the story early, he explained. Industry experts are already feeling the aftershocks. Some big liquor distributors have hit pause on orders for De Leon tequila, waiting to see what the trial reveals. Meanwhile, streaming numbers for the Bad Boy back catalog are skyrocketing. Fans are diving back into the music that defined an era. Culturally, the drama is hitting deep. Activists are pointing out the emotional weight of a son possibly testifying in such a high-profile case.
The last hearing before Sean Combs' trial starts, when he walked into federal court today, he appeared to be looking for his family. They've pretty much been at all of the hearings that I've been to, but there was no presence of his sons or his mother or his sister who had previously been at those hearings.
Do you still think that, because there is this public perception, that there are celebrity tapes involved in this case?
No.
Do you still think that there are minors involved in this case?
I'm certain no.
Okay.
And again, when you say this case, we're talking the criminal case.
The criminal case.
In the criminal,
I know that
in the criminal case, no.
Families often carry the hidden scars of AB, said Monique Reed, head of the Black Women's Justice Collective. If this helps survivors be heard, it's bigger than one courtroom. As of now, Christian hasn't filed an official witness affidavit, and Diddy's lawyers still have the right to shut down certain questions if they think they could put Christian at risk of incriminating himself. Court records show there's a big status hearing scheduled for 8 a.m. Monday, just half an hour before they start assembling the jury. Sean Combs is still locked up at Brooklyn's Metropolitan Detention Center with no bail after Judge Subramanian ruled in March that the new allegations, plus those firearms found during the raid, were enough to justify keeping him behind bars. His legal team is pushing back with a fresh bail request, this time citing family health issues. But prosecutors aren't budging. They say Diddy has global connections and way too many resources to trust him not to vanish. Meanwhile, Christian's still keeping a presence online, promoting his upcoming EP on social media, but all tour dates are on pause. A rep for CYN Music Group said the label respects the legal process and isn't making any more comments right now. All eyes are locked on Monday.
Back up a little bit, please. Thank you.
Can you support your father? How do you support him moving forward?
At trial, Combs will ditch the jail garb and wear ordinary clothes, as his lawyers argue the evidence shows consenting adults being intimate in their own way.
We have the latest from federal court in the Sean Combs criminal case. Status of jury selection, what Diddy's going to be wearing, violation of a gag order, rejecting a plea offer.
First, the court has to decide whether Christian's cooperation deal can even be used. Then comes the tough part. Finding a jury that can stay neutral in the middle of one of the most talked about celebrity trials in years. In one of the most high-profile celebrity trials in years, newly unsealed documents just dropped a bombshell. Sean Diddy Combs allegedly funneled at least $74 million through a tangled web of 17 shell companies from 2016 to 2023. Prosecutors say these shady transactions are central to the ST&R case headed to trial Monday in Manhattan's U.S. District Court. The ledgers, attached to a late Friday court filing, reveal wire transfers moving from core Bad Boy Entertainment accounts into LLCs registered in Delaware, Nevada, and even the British Virgin Islands. Investigators say this setup bankrolled private Gulfstream flights, luxury rentals in the Hamptons, and top-tier security, the same setups mentioned in earlier affidavits. According to prosecutors, Diddy built a layered business system to dodge personal liability. Forensic accountant Lydia Mercado, hired by the feds, said she spotted identical five-figure withdrawals made just hours before certain invite-only events, the same ones court docs label as high risk. And here's where things heat up. Two invoices reportedly show Christian Combs signed off as the internal approver for yacht rentals and catering costs. That puts his name directly on the money trail, linking him deeper into the cooperation now unfolding from Thursday's sealed memo. But Diddy's lead lawyer, Aaron Sussman, fired back, calling the ledgers nothing more than normal business expenses. In a letter to Judge Aaron Subramanian, he accused the government of turning everyday hospitality costs into some kind of criminal blueprint. And the heat didn't stop there. Another twist hit late in the week. Federal agents served a supplemental warrant at J.P. Morgan Chase on Wednesday, pulling records tied to De Leon Tequila's marketing dollars. A source close to the probe says agents flagged a massive $900,000 transfer from the tequila arm to a dormant media company owned by one of Diddy's longtime advisors. The next day, that same money allegedly paid for a private jet charter. Prosecutors claim that jet took off from Teterboro, New Jersey, and flew 8 unidentified passengers to Nassau, Bahamas, all part of the now infamous White Sands weekend that shows up elsewhere in the indictment. Music execs and corporate sponsors scrambled Friday to check their own risk. Revolt TV dropped a statement saying they had zero overlap with those shell companies and would cooperate fully if subpoenaed. Meanwhile, Diageo, parent of Ciroc and Kai Vodka, who already cut ties with Combs last year, said they wrapped up their own internal audit and confirmed there's no financial link left. But branding experts warn that if courtroom testimony exposes the gritty logistics behind Diddy's empire, it could shatter the trust that helped luxury liquor brands break into the urban market back in the 2000s. And let's talk charity.
Diddy's lawyers had argued that he had made good faith efforts by showing up in New York, ready to surrender to face these charges. But prosecutors said that he could not be trusted, that he has a history of trying to intimidate witnesses, including some who are going to be witnesses in this case. They urged the judge to remand him.
He knows the deck is stacked against him. They've got a ton of evidence. Take the plea deal, dude. Just take it.
Well, my guess is that because we don't know the deal of the plea deal. At least I don't think we do.
True.
Okay.
Because the ledgers also show $6.4 million in donations, including $450,000 to Howard University and $300,000 to a youth arts group in LA. Sounds generous, right? Not so fast. Prosecutors say that some of those same donations were followed by matching withdrawals from Diddy's personal accounts, implying he may have used those charity moves to quietly refill his own pockets. That's circular financing, said ex-IRS criminal investigator John Mendez. Charity becomes a pressure release when banks start asking too many questions. And the witness list? It's stacked. 3 former aviation staffers are set to testify, including a mechanic ready to say flight logs were wiped clean of passenger names before audits. That practice, he says, was justified by Combs's aviation manager as VIP privacy. But Diddy's lawyers call that claim irrelevant and say it's just a distraction. Prejudicial nonsense that doesn't belong in court. In a rare weekend twist, Judge Subramanian scheduled arguments for Sunday afternoon, showing just how tight this case's timeline really is. And across the music world, the heat just turned up again as the new financial disclosures sparked fresh debate. Should former bad boy artists speak out? Mary J. Blige's team stayed silent when asked about reports she might get a defense subpoena. Usher's reps say he hasn't been contacted by anyone involved in the case. Meanwhile, 50 Cent took things up a notch, posting screenshots of the newly unsealed ledger pages and saying, "I tried to warn y'all." Columbia University sociology professor Marciana Morgan said all the online buzz shows there's a generational clash happening, especially on Black Twitter. Hashtags like Shares Protect King Combs and Black Wall of Silence both trended, highlighting the divide. Some are cheering Christian for stepping forward, while others feel prosecutors are tearing apart Black-owned empires by turning family members into tools of the system.
The decision guarantees Combs will face trial beginning just 4 days from now that will test whether one of music's most prolific figures used his power, wealth, and fame to exploit both women and men for decades.
Elaborate, sometimes days-long parties by coercing victims through drugs, threats, and manipulation. They claim to have video evidence, and some of the accusations echo details from over 70 civil lawsuits filed against Combs over the last 30 years.
Major developments tonight involving the case against Sean Diddy Combs, what he decided in court today, and what this now means, the move coming just 4 days before his trial is set to begin. Here's Aaron Katursky.
Cultural commentator Michael Harriot didn't hold back either, saying that for many, the justice system has never been trustworthy. When the feds roll out ledgers, some see facts, others see another Tuskegee, he said, pointing to deep-rooted suspicion that goes way beyond this one case. The drama even made it to Capitol Hill. Congresswoman Ayanna Pressley called on the Justice Department to release anonymized data on how celebrity ST cases are charged, raising concerns that high-profile trials like this one could distract from real justice reform. So far, the DOJ hasn't responded. Inside Combs Enterprises, things are shaking up fast. On Friday morning, the senior execs jumped on an emergency board call. COO Tarek Brooks reportedly told the team they're exploring selling off minority shares of the Sean John Fashion Archive and putting a pause on a major hospitality launch in Miami. Some employees even got notices warning that furloughs could hit if this legal storm drags out too long. Back in court, jury selection is already underway. Judge Subramanian is vetting jurors carefully, telling them to avoid the media and social media to keep things fair. Each potential juror is now filling out a 24-page questionnaire asking about their familiarity with Diddy's music, their thoughts on conspiracy charges, and whether they know any of the 162 potential witnesses. The jury process is expected to take 3 days. If things move fast, opening statements could kick off as early as Thursday. The defense is still saying prosecutors are blowing things out of proportion, turning adult nightlife into a crime scene. Defense attorney Aaron Sussman plans to call expert sociologist Katrina Bell to explain that VIP parties often involve confidentiality agreements, but that doesn't make them criminal. Prosecutors, on the other hand, are bringing in digital forensic analyst Omar Velasquez, who claims encrypted chats show pre-arranged guest pairings, which they say back up the ST allegations.
Tonight, Sean Combs makes it official. He's rejecting the government's offer to plead guilty and spare himself the possibility of a prolonged term in prison. When asked if he turned down the offer, Combs answered, "Yes, I do, Your Honor," as he stood in a baggy beige jail uniform. Terms were not disclosed, but prosecutors did say a plea could result in a shorter sentence for Combs than if he's convicted.
Federal trafficking, racketeering, and charges beginning Monday morning.
Music mogul Sean Diddy Combs back behind bars, a magistrate judge denying him bail, saying that there were no conditions that she could conceive of that would make her confident that he would appear again for other court appearances. The judge saying, "My concern is this is a crime that happens behind closed doors."
Velasquez will also present location data from seized phones, placing Diddy's security team, certain guests, and staff at off-site apartments after the official parties wrapped up. And the fallout isn't just legal, it's financial. Sotheby's confirmed they're delaying the auction of Diddy's contemporary art collection, which was set for July. A spokesperson said they can't promise a clear title while federal forfeiture is still hanging in the air. Meanwhile, Warner Music Group's execs called an emergency risk committee to figure out whether streaming money flowing through Combs-controlled publishing companies could end up frozen under asset seizure rules. At a separate press event, National Urban League President Mark Morial urged the public to separate due process from moral judgment, but he admitted this case could overshadow everything Diddy's done philanthropically. Howard University didn't say whether it would return donations if prosecutors prove the funds were tied to anything shady. They only said they're monitoring the situation.
It's going to be such a massive trial, like maybe the biggest Hollywood trial. God knows which way it's going to go. Is it going to go on for weeks? For sure, weeks.
Then came another twist. Late Friday, prosecutors filed a notice that they plan to introduce prior bad act evidence under Federal Rule 404B. That means they could bring up a 2013 Miami incident where 2 former bodyguards claim they were told to snatch guests' phones and delete pics. Diddy's legal team hit back fast, saying this is nothing but a move to taint the jury with messy stories from the past. But legal analyst Rebecca Rofe says evidence like that often makes it in as long as it connects to a pattern or motive. The courthouse is already locking down. More security checkpoints have popped up, and there's even a designated media overflow room now. Officials say it could draw crowds like the Ghislaine Maxwell trial, though COVID-era rules still limit how many people can pack the gallery. As the weekend wound down, Diddy's team filed a motion to protect private family convos, while prosecutors fired back asking the judge to speed up the release of any expert reports the defense plans to use. A final pretrial conference is locked in for 9 a.m. Monday, where the judge will settle any last-minute issues and lock in the witness schedule. Christian Combs's cooperation status is still officially sealed, but multiple insiders expect him to take the stand during the first week. If he does, he could help confirm flight logs, payment receipts, and encrypted messages, possibly pushing prosecutors way ahead on their timeline. But the defense? They're gearing up for a full-on battle. Sussman says he's ready to go hard at any cooperating witness and plans to question Christian's motives, especially since he's never been charged. Right now, those unsealed ledgers offer the clearest glimpse yet into how prosecutors think Diddy's music money blurred into illegal territory. This trial, already shaping up to be a defining moment in celebrity accountability, will kick off with a spotlight on family loyalty, complicated finances, and the uncertain future of a once untouchable empire. If you made it this far, make sure to like, subscribe, and drop